doesn't look staged. Look at them.
I am.
Hey everybody, Michael Gibney here. Appreciate you tuning in and checking out the coverage of the Greater Nashville Open Round 1, presented by Prodigy Disc. It was a fun card. We had me, Todd Bagwell, Nathan Long, Logan Bowers, and Will Schustrick, all of us on the card, being filmed here by Marty McGee.
Now on the tee.
First tee here. When we were practicing this week, we really didn't have a lot of wind on this hole. And whenever I got up to tee, there was a super strong tailwind. So picked up a 400 D3, kind of flippy, let the tailwind just keep it kind of straight. I guess the nerves got to me a little bit. Hole's probably around 4 something downhill, but I took that thing and just crushed it way past the basket and faded out. But it's in the open and I didn't go out of bounds, so it's a fine start to the tournament. Got a 300 A2 here, had a little wind. Just threw it up on a little hyzer. Did about, I think it was about 15 feet. Sat here and watched everybody else doink it off the front. We had one other 3 and 2 4s and a 5. So whenever that one sank to the bottom of the bucket, I was feeling good. Get the first hole out of the way and move on. Hole 2 was pretty short, right around 220 feet. Just a little sidearm with an A2 because of the wind. I was going straight at it with a putter most of my rounds of practice, but with the wind I decided to step up to an approach series. Got a real clean release, but I just left it a little flat and a little outside the circle. Maybe 40 feet-ish, 45. Jump putt, gave it a little go. Felt pretty good about it. The wind just dropped it. Kept in for a 3, so after not the best drive, moving on with the par didn't bother me at all. Hole 3 here. A lot of people were taking a sidearm, and in practice I just used the M2, just put it out on a little ante line.
Oh gosh, kick out.
And it just came over on it way too much. I got really lucky that it hit and kind of cut rolled back to the middle. That could have easily went out of bounds and been throwing 3 from there, but it cut rolled back out. I pulled out a little 400 PA2. As you can see, there's a little right to left wind. Get right up to the bucket. Hit the metal. Felt good about that. Hole 3. So we move on to hole 4. Little sidearm. Most people were pitching a gator approach type disc. I think I took out a little 750 H2. My sidearm isn't quite as good as some others. Put it out there, just a slight hyzer. Spikes right by the basket, about 10 feet. Wind was actually pretty calm right here. Got that in for a birdie. So this hole, got an F5 in my hand. It's definitely, to me, a fairway shot. Wind was kind of blowing, as you can see. Hair and the trees are going crazy. When I threw that, I thought I released it perfectly, and then I hit that little twig, so I thought it would knock it down right by the basket, but I ended up going about 40, 45 long. I was kind of surprised at that. I thought it would have sat down a little earlier, so I just kind of gave that a soft run, more of a layup. Pick an easy 3 and move on. I watched somebody else hit the cage or the bottom and roll away a good bit, so I didn't want to chance it with that side hill. To the next hole. Got a 750 H1 in my hand. Super stable, like Firebird, like this. Throw it. Thought I released it really well, just slightly low. Got inside the circle. Was feeling good. A little discussion what he was out. As you can see, I have a pretty hard left to right tailwind. tried to compensate for it, and I just airballed it right. That one I was pretty upset with. Definitely wanted the birdie after being in the circle on that hole. A little 10-footer come back, tap it in, move on. So wind, as you can see, still looking pretty good. I have two different PA2s in my hand. This one is a little bit less stable. A little bit less stable one. Line it up. Oh, it came out really good, but it just never hooked up. I definitely should have used the other one. So it soared out of bounds, but I got pretty lucky. Ended up right by the basket. As you can see, I had a super strong headwind and it drops off about 30 feet to OB right after. So I did go out of bounds, but I got a spot right by the basket. And instead of running this and taking a chance of having to come back at it for a 5, took my medicine and laid it up. So I took a bogey there. So I got a 400G D2 in my hand here. I was throwing a D1 in practice, but I kept leaving it a little short. And there's some OB water. That one really well. Wish I would have put it a little higher. Wouldn't have got quite the distance on it. But I was overall pretty happy after going out of bounds a couple times in my practice rounds. So I'm probably setting 45, 50 feet, line up a little jump putt. And I left my hand, I thought, pretty happy with it, but just came up a little short on it. Up in a 3. Now this hole here, I actually didn't get to practice in practice. We kind of skipped over this hole in the next 2 or 3. So I stepped up to this tee and asked Will and Nate Long what to do. They told me to throw my essentially my D1 here. And I just sawed it off. I got into the thick of it here. The wind just pushed it out. I had a couple different discs in my hand, and I really had nothing, not even really a way to get back to the basket. So I was really just trying to punch through some of this brush. Got a little F5 in my hand, just trying to put just a little touch of ante on it. Kind of throw it hard through the brush right here and get to the basket. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen, and I kick out somewhere outside the circle, maybe 35, 40 feet. So this is a par save. Really needed this one to not lose a stroke to everybody. Put it up, and as you can see, get that one to go in. I was pretty happy with that after landing in the bushes. So that par definitely felt really good. 10 here. As you can see the gallery a little bit behind us. Had just a couple of our friends, Dylan Russell, Brad Beck doing some Facebook Live. Pull out my test M2. I watched Todd Bagwell pretty close with his M3, so I just pulled out my test M2 and put it right next to Todd's. Very happy with that. Once again, I was playing this hole blind, so get it inside the circle about 22, 23 feet off the tee was definitely good. Had a little left or right wind here. And inside the circle, should make these most of the time. And hit that one dead center. Pardon the birdie 2. So that birdie puts me back to 1 down for the round. Playing another hole blind, watched everybody else throw pretty much a D1 on a Stark Heiser, so I did the same. With a pretty new D1. Good on the Heiser. Thought I released it perfect, but unfortunately just went a little long. But if you watch right here, got really lucky, got the spot right there. So I did throw out of bounds, but I got the spot right by the basket, tapped it in. A little nervous there, I put it a little high and that hit him. So card the birdie, or excuse me, the par 3 there. This is the last hole I played blind. Pull out my one again. Saw Will and Nate and a couple of them throw this to the Heiser. Taking a little while to set up and get ready. It's probably the nervousness of not playing the hole before. And I definitely sawed this one off. I was trying to play it safe over to the left side. What I didn't know is that there was OB about 10 foot left of where I landed. I was just throwing over there to play safe, toss up and take a 3. And I get up to my disc and there was OB right there by it. So I got lucky to stay in bounds there. So I just lay this one up. 60 feet there, just put it under the basket, tap out my par and move on. So pulling out my 400G D2 again. You can see by the trees, it was very windy and very cold this day. But as you can see by those trees, the wind is howling pretty hard. So I went a little more stable. And then I just let it out of my hands a little early, kind of calling for it to hit the tree there and drop down. And it did. So I was happy with that. Sitting right here at circle's edge, but the wind is just howling on this putt. Let it go low, and then the wind just pushed it over. So I still have a little bit of a comebacker. Marty with this fancy camera angle here. So there's nothing but a 10-footer or so, but the wind was howling, so I definitely wanted to take my time. Out of there with a par after a not so good drive. Sawing it off a little bit, I'm happy. So we step up to the par 5 here. This one was right at 1,100 feet. Like I said, this one here, right at 1,100 feet. Goal off the tee, if it wasn't windy, was to throw a D2, but with it as windy as it was, I just step up with a D1. Stay down. Just try to rip it about 350, 375. Just put it over there, safe. Really getting far off the tee doesn't help you, so I just didn't want to go OB. So put it over here, grabbed a 400 A2. Just going to lay it down to the bottom before you're having to throw across. There's no way I could ever make that across even on my best day. Just take that little 400 A2, got some headwind, and execute a good shot there. Right to about where I wanted it. Pull up that 400G D2 again, and I asked Will before kind of how to throw it. He said, well, just don't turn it over. And I turned it over, and it just sailed with that left to right headwind on me. It just sailed way right. So that was my throw for 3. So then I'm throwing 4 from over there on a par 5. So pull out a PA2. And the wind just carries, as you can see right there. Took me about 20 feet away, but putting back into a headwind. So putting for par on this par 5. There we go. Good putt. So felt good to make sure to get that one in there. So moving on to hole 15. Still sitting at 1 down. This one here, I just took a 400 M2. It's slightly flippy for an M2, and it was a left to right wind, so I just put it on a little bit of an ante. It's right under 300 feet.
Carry.
And as you can see, it carried right over there to the basket. I was really happy with that throw. It's about where I kept landing in practice. So just tap in a little 5-footer or so. I was really happy to get that birdie. Got that 400 GD2 again. On my hand, I thought this one was going to be way left, but it really flipped up kind of nicely.
Should be good. Get a putt.
It looks like Marty really captured where it landed, but it's right here behind this tree, about 45 feet away. And I hit front cage, straddle around a tree with a lot of wind. Wasn't too upset with that. I'll tap in here. As you can see, real windy. That wind is pretty strong. I think Will made a joke after that. Tap in there. Good putt, Gibney, because I took so long for a little 8-footer. But no reason to rush. So we go on to hole 17. M2 kicks off the tree and goes OB. Pull out the little A2 just to try to get it up close so I can have a putt to hopefully save a bogey. Throw a little skip shot around there. Settle's okay, but still about. So got about 20 feet to go with some wind. Squeak it right over the rim there. So take a bogey there to take me back to 1 down with 1 hole to go. Us all kind of just saying good around to each other.
Caddy.
Yeah.
Last hole, I go with
I don't know
a
what he took.
M2 here. Wasn't sure if it was me or Logan first. Go with an M2 here. It's what I practice in practice. Just trying to go for that little center gap right there and just try to give it enough height not to hit that road. There's a little bit of a curb there that can keep you OB if you throw it low. So just trying to throw it a little high enough, and it just slipped out early. But it was inbounds. Right at 60 feet away. So step up to this putt. Really wanting it 60 feet. It's the last hole. And hit a little high, but it stayed in there for the birdie too. I was real happy to hit that to finish 2 down. Pretty big gallery there watching us with everybody coming in, about 80 people or so. So that was a good one to finish 2 down on the round. So you can see the scores there. Appreciate y'all tuning in and checking it out. Until next time, go like the video and subscribe.